Good morning and good afternoon for those folks around the world tuning in. We are here on what is the 47th episode of Overdose and Chill Live, and we are joined by Jim Lofgren from Nosto. Good afternoon to you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, it's great. It's been a while since we've caught up, so I'm pretty excited to dig in cold on this stuff. First off, where are you calling in from?
I'm on the west coast of Sweden. It was a little bit of a nightmare getting here from Brooklyn last week, but I made it through all the COVID tests and then vaccinations and whatever else we needed to get done. But I'm here, so we're spending me and the family were spending some time on the west coast of Sweden for a few weeks at least.
Very nice. And how are things going in Sweden, in the Nordics, with the COVID recovery?
Oh, you don't want to get me started there. There's the Euros coming up, and in the Euros soccer, everyone lives in a bubble. All the teams live in a bubble. They can't do anything. And then Spain the other week had one player. They found out that he had COVID. They isolated everyone. Everyone was, practicing doing their stuff individually in their hotel rooms. Sweden, however, just like they have managed this whole thing, Sweden, what they did was they give everyone 3 days off to do whatever they wanted in the middle of the whole thing. So people, they were partying and like the players were partying and doing whatever and came back, and several of them now are sick.
Oh, Lord.
Yeah. So it's the national team is in line with the rest of the COVID response in Sweden, to be fair.
I'm curious, is it painful for you to have to say soccer on a broadcast like this?
Yeah, yes, it is. It is. But I have 10 years in the US. I'm used to it now. It's good football for the rest of the Europeans. And
is Ibra okay? That's the big question.
He is okay, but he won't play. But yeah, I mean, he signed another year in AC Milan. So we're fortunate to see hopefully another year of him play and win the Scudetto.
Yeah, very cool. He's been a career that I've absolutely followed. He's a fascinating player, both on and off the field. So good stuff. One wouldn't think he's Swedish, but he's born and raised in Sweden, right?
Yes, he is. South, close to where we are now.
Very nice. My wife and I have actually recently gotten into, I guess, what they call Nordic noir. The Nordic noir sort of, whether it's Joe Nesbo, but we're watching The Bridge, right? Isn't it The Bridge? Is it regionally a Sweden, Denmark, right? The murder mystery.
Yeah.
And they made it into one in the UK called The Tunnel, which we're now sort of also watching. So it's dark stuff, man. The Nordics do write some dark murder mysteries.
Yeah, there's a few of them. There's some books that they made movies of. There's one with what's her name, Mara Rooney as well, which is a bit in that direction.
This is what the Millennium.
Yeah, exactly. Millennium series. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Very cool stuff. So you are splitting your time. This when we first met, and it's crazy to think that we first met 3 years ago. You've been at Nosto for 3 years, which is just. Feels like yesterday we met at Shop Talk out there when you had just joined, and what a journey it's been. I definitely want to get into what's going on with you and Nosto and all the exciting stuff there. But before that, would love to dig in a little bit into your past. As I do in preparation for these, I do some LinkedIn stalking, and I was really, going through your past experiences. It was fascinating. I hadn't realized that you had a merchant side background, and really you didn't touch it. You spent some real time on the merchant side. So can we talk a little bit about, I guess, your experiences across, the brands like Full Beauty? I know you also work with some very large Nordic and European brands.
Yeah, well, so, I had my future was, I had a straight path. I was going to banking. That was I was going to be an investment banker. That was, set in stone since I was 16. I did the schools. Everyone from the schools that I did had gone into banking. But I got stuck in a French internship as I was studying in Paris a little bit at a business school there, at a conglomerate e-commerce company. So mixed catalog and e-commerce. They bought this French company, La Redoute, bought a bunch of brands globally in the US and in Europe. And I worked at the HQ, it was a small HQ, and the CEO there, he's kind of said, like, there's no way. He was a banker, by the way. He said, listen, why would you go into to banking if you've never run a company. Like it's meaningless. I've done that. You should probably stick around with us and do some proper work. So I stuck around in retail for a good few years. I spent 10 years in retail, e-commerce, and first couple of years at a big brand in the Nordics called Headless, where I ran their e-commerce business, 300 million euros, or a bit more in USD. It's a big e-commerce business. And then CEO of the La Redoute division in the Nordics. It was slightly smaller, but still, at 28, they made me CEO of that business. It's a big gamble from them. I would think, I think back on that, like, why would you give me that role? But
you just seem trustworthy.
Yeah, right. Yeah. It's my black hair, my beard is trustworthiness.
Well, interesting. You should mention that, not to get too derailed. I was looking for pictures to leverage, to use in the creative assets for the promo for this. So as you do, you search someone on Google, and all these pictures of you without a beard showed up, and I was like, who is that guy?
Yeah. I mean, the story with the beard is also quite interesting. I'm not allowed to shave anymore. It's a rule in my house set by my wife. So, but anyway, so yeah, I spent some time there, and then that company, the French company, they moved me to the US in 2010 to run a e-commerce brand, which is called One Stop Plus. It's called that again now. And it was a 40 million USD operation, but we found some pretty interesting acquisition mechanisms at that point to acquire new customers, and grew that business to 100 in 2.5 years. So that was a really cool, interesting journey. We built the marketplace, which is fairly rare at that point. We used a channel advisor, and they were early still. To source suppliers, we used Commerce Hub to source suppliers. We built that marketplace. We built the product feed engine to those third-party sellers ourselves, and we used the others for the back-end integration. And we built that business. It was crazy, and it was all women's apparel primarily. And then we sold the whole group to private equity, and I went into tech. So that's sort of the story on the retail side.
And the tech, at that point, did you join Klarna, or were you somewhere in between? So Commerce Hub had a little bit of a Steve Jobs story. So Commerce Hub is this huge drop ship e-commerce SaaS platform upstate New York. And the founder had previously sold, Frank Poor, he had sold the business. He came back as CEO and wanted to build out the marketplace practice. So I joined Commerce Hub for a few years, and that was before I then joined Klarna in 2015. I'm curious, you referenced upstate New York, and I know you live in Brooklyn, and you were splitting your time with your family.
It's not Westchester.
All right.
It's not Westchester.
The default is I'm in Yonkers, right? I'm 28 minutes from Grand Central Station, but people, especially if they're not from New York, who moved to New York, and they're here, they go, "Oh, you're from upstate. You live upstate." I'm like, well, technically it's further upstate, but it ain't upstate.
No, we were north of Albany, which is true upstate. It's like the Midwest.
Yeah, that's real. It's real stuff up there.
That's real.
Cool.
Yeah.
So then you sort of came full circle, and you got into finance.
Yes.
One might say.
Yes, fintech.
You went to fintech, and you I don't remember if you started as, but you before you moved on to Nosto, you were CEO of Klarna North America.
Yeah.
Obviously a really exciting space with buy now, pay later. Obviously a very exciting brand with just remarkable marketing. And as a marketer, I look at it and I'm like, that's just, it's beautiful. It's a beautiful thing to see. So can you talk a little bit about sort of what that looked like in the early days of Klarna, really, is what it was before it became this sort of, fintech unicorn? Yeah.
So I joined Klarna, and we moved to San Francisco. There's a lot of work being done in parallel, I guess you could say. So the company just launched in 2014 in the US, had signed a few merchants, and they were really doing what a couple of companies are doing right now, which is like they're trying to optimize the checkout, and they were using credit instruments to optimize and improve the checkout conversion. That's a big product for Klarna in the Nordics. They sort of leverage all the different payment mechanisms, card and everything. It's essentially acquirer, and they have their own proprietary payment products. And they were trying to do that in the US, and it was fairly slow in the beginning, getting traction with that product. It was a bit early, I would say. And I came in 2015, and I came in the US. I was the only employee that was not directly employed in the US for the US organization. So I ran a global team from San Francisco that managed large global accounts, and we sold into the folks like H&M, IKEA, Ticketmaster, those big multinationals. And we built this product where you integrate with Klarna once, but you get access to 10 markets of credit issuing. And that was really interesting from a large multinational perspective. And I saw huge traction with that, and there was immediate product market fit. And I think there was a couple of a couple of iterations in the US on the US side, and I came in 2017 to run I took on both roles, both the global role and the US role, and then we had to pivot in 2017, and we saw what was going on in Australia with Afterpay. They hadn't come yet to the US, but the markets are fairly similar, so we started building a product that was the pay in 4, that's largely one of the most predominant buy now, pay later products in the market. So we spent a lot of time doing that. And then in the midst of the launch of this, Nosto came around. So Nosto's 3 co-founders, they kept calling in the beginning of 2018. And in the end, that was an interesting journey for me to jump on, and a global company. That's what we met in Shop Talk.
Yeah. So this is fast forward to 2017. Right, that's when this
probably 2017, 2018, yeah, 18.
And you transitioned from CEO of Klarna North America, and you jumped in as CEO of Nosto. Sort of jumped in cold to Nosto, and we've known Nosto. I think we first met the local Nosto crew, Cam McQueen actually, who's now over at Amazon Pay. When I first joined the ecosystem back in 2015, I think it was sort of when we had the digital Nosto meetups, right? And he was there, and the relationship grew between MediaSpa, which is what we were back then, and Nosto. And at the time, I think you guys it was Product Rex, right? It was like Jan and over at Meet Magento New York, just showing how it's like AI powered cross-sell upsell. That's what Nosto was.
Yeah.
And then there was an evolution where it became Facebook advertising, and it became a little bit more discovery. And over the years, more and more features started getting built out. So can you tell us a little bit about what is Nosto today? Because I know over the past 4 or 5 months, there's been a pretty significant release and expansion of those capabilities.
Yeah, I mean, so I came in 2018, and we decided then to make. We decided not to be a point solution anymore. I think that was the key thing. We always had the ambition to influence and change the e-commerce experience, or the commerce experience in general, where it's much more relevant to you. Anything that you do one to all today should be one to few or one to one, and that was the founding mechanism around Nosto in general. But the Rex was sort of the most applicable way of doing that. Product recommendations on PDPs and on category pages and landing pages. But we said, look, this is not a one product point solution. This is a much broader experience that we need to figure out for merchants, and it's a huge pain point, and it's something that is going from something that you would want to achieve to something that's now becoming necessary. You need to have it as a merchant, and essentially what we decided was to take over or influence every single piece of real estate that you have on site. we'd build a couple of solutions like our Facebook integrations were largely around, third-party advertising on the Facebook channels. We said, that might not be our core business. What we want to do is, take over the on-site experience, from the content that you show on your landing pages to all the single pieces of real estate on your PDP, to the category pages, to the ranking of the product on the on-site experience, and want to make sure you can optimize everything from a one-to-one and one-to-few perspective, and overlay all these business rules, which is like my business. What I'm currently doing is I'm trying to optimize for growth. Then let's optimize for AOV and conversion rate or click-through rate or whatever the metric might be. Or I'm a business where I've grown to 100 million. I need to this category specifically, I need to optimize for conversion and margin and rank those products up. And I need that same philosophy to go throughout the PDP, the category pages, the content that we show. We need to show a segment of users who, always shop new arrivals. We don't want to show them the sales section or the sales banners. We want to show them the new arrivals consistently, or the people who always buy men's. We should show them men's consistently on the landing page, on the banner, or new visitors should have a clearly different experience from other visitors who are more repeat. So we're using all the algorithmic experience we have, and we're building out all of those touch points on the on-site experience, and that's been the key driver for us, and that keeps our vision alive, because that's really what we're trying to do now is create this commerce experience that is taking everything that you did before, one to all, that you do in your e-commerce platform in Shopify Plus or whatever, on one to all. We're creating now like a one to few or one to one type experience that is coordinated. And the beauty of it is you can export everything that we gather from the core data. You can then export to your ESP, to your advertising platform, so that even in the advertising, you can use our data, so that the experience and on-site is the same as in the advertising.
Well, that's really cool, and it's super interesting. I think one of the things I learned very quickly when I joined the industry is, two things. One is, it doesn't matter. Well, let's start with the first one. A tech is only as good as its partner ecosystem, right? It's fine to have a great technology, but if you can't get the data easily from that tech into the rest of your tech stack, you're a man on an island doing nothing, pretty much. So I've always been impressed with Nosto's sort of partner first mentality. I think, like I said early on, when all these sort of in the meetup phase of New York City back in 2015, it was evident to me before I even dug in too deep that Nosto was pretty entrenched in the ecosystem and always had that at the forefront of the movement there. And the other side of it is, a tech is only as good as the people that support it. Again, it doesn't matter how good your tech is, if the team that supports it, I'll be diplomatic here, sucks, your tech sucks. And again, that's an area where Nosto has always, I think, been head and shoulders above a lot of other folks in the industry, because the people you guys bring on, I think, it's always been impressive. So I'm curious, what have you guys done to sort of ensure that sort of just quality of human that you guys are bringing on? And I think the longevity of the folks who are at Nosto is impressive as well. We're in an ecosystem, an industry where you see folks going, every 6 or 8 months or every year, rotating through, tech to agency to merchant. And I think everyone we've worked with at Nosto has been pretty long-term and has been this sort of level of stability that we don't always see across the ecosystem.
Yeah, and it's becoming harder and harder because of the way that the ecosystem is evolving and the amount of money that's coming into the system. The funding rounds today is, they're different in size compared to even a year ago. But yeah, I pay tribute. I can't take any of the credit here. I feel like I pay tribute to the founders who have set a culture that I think in Nosto is relatively unique. It's very much it's the most super friendly culture I've ever encountered. And I think, there's no politics, there's none of that stuff. And I think that makes people want to stick around a long time. There's been a couple of, really, apart from the founders, there's a development team that is probably the best you can imagine here, like really great. But also there's a couple of there's legendary folks who've been with the company a long time. You mentioned them already. Like Jan has been with our North American business for a long time. Chris Nugid, he spent a lot of years and really built our partner first strategy and a lot of the partner agency relationships, but also tech partner relationships has been built sort of part of him, and I think those people have set the tone for what we want to be, and they built the culture together with the company. And I'm grateful. What I need to do is I need to try to foster and keep it. I almost feel like I inherited a really good thing, and I just need to make sure I keep it, and I keep it moving forward. But I'm grateful for all of those people who've done all the hard work.
Yeah, I think it's a testament, quite frankly, beyond the culture of Nosto. I think probably the professionalism and just professional growth of the folks there. And any company, any CEO, I imagine, you hope everyone sticks around forever, but that's not the way the world works. And you hope that those folks that do move on are successful and what they learned at Nosto, helps them along the way. And what I've noticed is in the ecosystem with this sort of revolving door we generally have, sometimes I'll get on a call with a tech who wants to become a partner, and then they start trying to pitch what they're doing. And if they spent time at Nosto, they will always lead with, "Oh, I used to be at Nosto." Even if they've been at 3 or 4 places in between, they'll always reference Nosto. And on the same note, folks like Cam McQueen, he in my head is always going to be Cam from Nosto. Even though he's been at EasyShip and now Amazon Pay, it's still Cam from Nosto. So that's really a testament to the culture you guys have built there and how people respect it and really still feel.
You mean that Cam left? I mean, for me, he's forever Nosto. Yeah, he's part of the core group. He gets invited to all our parties. Trust me.
Yeah, exactly. So that I love that, absolutely. And I'm curious, what are you guys? And I think this movement toward, and I don't want to say an all-in-one solution because I don't think those are really a thing, but a more robust solution, right? That you guys are building out, that has more features and services more areas of the website. When I first joined, I think we were at a place where every e-com platform, every shopping cart platform in the world wanted to just keep adding features. They wanted to become everything to everybody. And at the time, that was what the market wanted in some respect. And then all of a sudden it became, well, that core platform is not best in class. We've got the Nostos, we've got the Yotpos. We have those folks out there that are actually better than the core features and functionality of our technology. And the merchants were like, ooh, I need that, I want that, that's better than what I have. And then fast forward 3 years, merchants have 35, 40 vendors for their tech stack. And it's like, wait a second, we've gone too far in that other direction of single spot solutions. And I think we're now, as you guys are definitely, I think we're one of the leaders here, moving back a little bit more toward, I want my vendors to have a more robust feature. I want fewer vendors who do a little bit more and do it better.
So you're spot on, and I think it's part of it is cyclical.
Yeah,
I think we're going to come back to this cyclicality of it. I think you'll come up with new tech, and they will be pitching themselves as best of breed, and they will go against whoever was the best of breed who have now broadened themselves. For example, us. My biggest fear. And what we talk about a lot is the fact that we cannot expand the product and be, if the solution that we're building, or if we're acquiring someone, if that's not best of breed in the segment, or we're building something that we honestly can say is better than what's available in the market, I'd rather not build it, because I know I'm going to be attacked by another best of breed solution, which is going. And if I have only one module inside the platform that's worse than the best of breed solution, it kind of puts the whole platform relationship or a Nosto relationship with the client in danger.
Yeah.
So I I'm nervous and conscious that what we build wouldn't be better than what's available in the ecosystem or whatever. So that's sort of the benchmark we hold ourselves against. And it becomes a challenge that's become broader and broader, because you need to support it with your engineering and product staff, and you need to train everyone on your customer success team and your sales team to actually know how to talk about the product, how it works. And from 1,000 feet or 10,000 feet perspective, it's easy enough to explain it, but then you need to be really detailed around everything that's happening. The Apple release that happened the other day, all of a sudden you're going to get questions in every sales call. How does that impact your solution? Geo-targeting, IP addresses. How is that going to work now with Apple on Safari? I'm guessing all the ESPs are sweating a little bit with the open rate analysis and whatever else that's going to be impacted. But it becomes really technical, and when it's broad and technical, that's challenging for everyone. So there's a lot of work for us to do to make sure that the team we have knows the product well enough and can talk to it.
Yeah, it's interesting. You talk about making sure you've got, if you're bringing in through acquisition or you're adding a new feature, you want to make sure that whatever that is best in breed. And I think the other side of that is just the navigating the politics in the ecosystem of, hey, if we do this, are we going to blow up a partnership we have with a technology that does something similar? So what does that lead flow? What does that relationship look like? Where are we risking that?
Yeah, that's a really interesting point, and I think also something we have to talk about internally when we look at, for example, acquisitions or building something. But there, as you said, there's a clear trend around the on-site experience is moving in a certain direction. Marketing automation is moving in a little bit of a different direction, where SMS and ESPs become largely one. And the on-site experience becomes, I think, largely one where search and merchandising and recommendations, you want to have a really strong solution there. And I think, perhaps at some point those two areas will start to merge. But I think for now, we're not seeing that yet. And I think as long as you have you need to start defining where does your core data sit? Does it sit in your CRM, ESP, CDP? Is that where you start the configuration of your customer experience, or does it sit with the behavioral data and segmentation and one-to-one image metadata? Where does it really sit? And if you decide and you lean into something, then you need to make sure you can import data from whatever system you have, so that you can have a much more holistic experience for the end consumer.
Yeah, no, for sure. Going back a little bit to the part where we're talking about sort of the cyclical nature of sort of the all-in-one and then the best in class. And I actually had a similar conversation with Ali from BigCommerce a few weeks ago. And I was sort of in my head thinking, yeah, we're moving back toward the all-in-one, and then at some point we'll go back to the best in class and having 50 vendors. And he sort of brought up, we were talking about composable headless architecture.
Yeah.
And I think that element of, we first started hearing headless 2 years ago. People were talking about it, and you were using Contentful or stuff on the front end. We saw it really gain traction in Central Europe in our DACH market maybe eight months ago. There was real conversations, and I think started signing headless deals and composable deals, with those platforms, front ends and back ends, probably 6 months ago. We saw it hit in APAC about 4 to 6 months ago, and started signing deals there about 3 months ago. And in North America, over the past 2 months, we've seen an absolute rocket in sort of a headless approach, and getting on client prospect calls, and out of the gate, they say, we want headless. And we're always like, well, we don't know if you need that, but the conversation's there. So I think that's certainly something that's gonna restrict the level to which we get back to an all-in-one solution, because all these composable headless deals, that's the nature of it, right? Is being able to take your third-party tech and plug it into that tech stack instead of having an all-in-one platform technology. So I'm curious, what are you guys seeing in that space? And how are you guys working with that?
Yeah, so we prepared for this. We were a little bit, we saw the trend a few years back that something was happening here. That's when we started going down the path of creating GraphQL API type integrations for clients who were doing it. So we were quite early, and then we didn't see much traction 2 years ago.
Yep.
We built it out, we had it ready to go, but not too many merchants were using it. Over the last year, I think we've started to see some interesting trends. We've had a few new deals or new retailers come in, but we've seen maybe more of a migration of larger customers and retailers, both thinking about it, but now actually implementing it. And they're going quite aggressively from a Shopify Plus more standardized integration to a they use us for GraphQL, and they use us through the APIs. For us, the more broader platform approach doesn't really change, because you still need someone to use machine learning tech and algorithmically re-rank the products in the category tree, retrieve the behavioral data, the image data, apply the machine learning, and sort of send back the recategories or the recategorization, re-rankings, or for example, to do the recommendations on the product detail page or category pages, or to provide the out-of-the-box ML-based segments that you can use both from a display perspective in your banners. You still need that, but the endpoint, the actual what's housing the actual content, is moving from what was Shopify Plus, a standard sort of CMS type or page builder, whatever it might be, to another provider. And in the beginning, Headless seemed to be almost like a custom thing, where now it seems to be SaaS Headless, where I have Stackla in the DACH region, you have Shogun trying to move in that, or they're moving in that direction, and other front end platforms really providing a headless experience. What I personally think is the main benefit of Headless, and when I say Headless, I like the SPA version of Headless. That's where I personally find that's where it gets the most interesting, where it's single page application type speed. The speed of Headless and single page application I find really interesting, because we had a client in the Nordics, Royal Design, and they used a local agency there to do this 1 or 2 years ago, and I was amazed at the speed of which the site reloads, and the experience that you have on mobile, for example, was fantastic. And that's when I got really into sort of Headless and what that will mean for consumers, the speed of it.
Yeah. Go ahead. And if you had something else on that, it's interesting. I had this chat with a prospect the other day, and we're talking about how 10 years ago, 8 years ago even, you had your e-commerce site, which was pretty templated, pretty straightforward, and was just e-com. You had your brand site, which was all your content, all your marketing, all your sort of just your CMS. And then you had your B2B site, if that was relevant. And now we're at a point in time where you could have them all in one, right? You could have that robust, flexible front-end CMS. You could have your e-commerce on the back end of it. And if you have B2B, you could do it there as well. So that's one of the things that excites me about with Headless, is that these, whether it's Shopify, Magento, BigCommerce, none of them historically have had robust CMSs, right? That's why you have your Shoguns, you have your Bluefoots, which is now Magento Page Builder, but still they're not the Fantastics, the Deities, the Contentfuls of the world, which gives you so much more flexibility, not just in what you can show your customers, but how easy it is on the back end to do it yourself and not need a developer for 4 hours to make a tweak to the site. So it's really exciting, I think, for everybody. So we're getting into the home stretch here. For folks who are listening in across our channels, by all means, please, if you have any questions, comments, drop them in the chat and we will get to them. So cool. Headless. So Stackla. So some big news. You just acquired Stackla. Can you tell us a little bit about what Stackla is and what that roadmap looks like? Yeah.
So for those of you who are not super familiar with Stackla, so Stackla is one of the leaders in the space for UGC, primarily visual UGC. So they enable brands and retailers to search all the social channels for content that is about your brand, and then you can actually request the rights to use that content that's produced by users or consumers in your channels. You store all the data and all the images and in your sort of library, in your data asset manager, and then you can actually use them as a delivery mechanism, whether it's back into social or on your site, or with your ESP or CRM or loyalty programs. So that's sort of the core of what they do. They're clearly one of the most advanced solutions in the market. That was one of our key concerns when we looked into this space. We really believe that, strategically, the commerce experience, which is sort of what we're building our whole thinking around, we want to help retailers manage the entire commerce experience that's on site. Not only one part of it, the product recommendations, but the entire end-to-end commerce experience on site. And if you walk into a store, you take that old pitch around how that experience is when you're in a store. It's very authentic and personal, and that's always been the challenge. Our algorithmic approach and overlaying merchandising on that, you can satisfy your merchandising strategies and the relevancy really, really well. But how do we bring in the authenticity into that experience? How do we make that experience fully authentic? And that means that it's moving away from the branded version of this is what the aspirational look is, and this is what it's actually like. This is someone actually talking to you. This is the true experience. And we want to be the most authentic. We want to provide the most authentic experience, and we want to be the technology that provides that. That was the strategic impetus of what we wanted to do. And then we started looking for who can really help us provide that experience. And we looked at everyone that we could find in the retail space, and we ended up with Stackla. They built a product that blew us completely away, and they do this for. I was in the media the other day, but they do this for large consumer electronics that have big billboards around what's shot on a certain phone and stuff like this. So it's a great solution, and then we were blown away by the team. This is an Australian founded company, fantastic people. You overdose. The people that they afterwards are fantastic. So we fell in love with the people after having fallen in love with the product. So we decided to do something together that's bigger, and that's what we're doing now.
Congrats on that. Super exciting. Absolutely speaks to a tech is only as good as the people that support it, and if it's good and the people who support it are great, it's a perfect combination. That's super exciting. That'll be rolling out, I imagine, as you guys sort of get that aligned up and get the tech lined up. You'll be able to start at some point leveraging that UGC in things like, in the Nosto, buckets, as it were, across the site. So
yeah.
You can pull it in.
Yeah, our vision is exactly that you can use it across all the existing Nosto products that you currently have, in addition to actually leveraging the core functionality. And we're trying to come to market with something that is really interesting for both new clients that we're going to have, but also we want to create a clear benefit for our existing base of loyal customers who've been with us for a long time. So that's probably rolling out a little bit later this year.
Awesome. And certainly in a post-COVID world, there are people who aren't going to go back to stores, right? Who are going to stay online, and you need to bridge that gap between the brick and mortar true brand experience and what has historically online been a challenge to deliver, right? Digital is not in store. I have this debate pretty frequently with folks about email pop-ups. Excuse me. And you go to a site and the page loads, and within half a second, there's an email pop-up saying, give us your email for 10% or whatever it is. And my argument's always been, I liken that to walk into a store, and the second you walk through the front door, someone comes up to you and goes, "Hi, what's your name? What do you want?" Versus, I go in the store, I walk around for a minute or two. They see that I'm engaged. They go, "Hey, I'm whomever. How can I help you? Let me know if you have any questions about the store." Meaning that immediate email pop up, even if you get someone, there's no intent there. There's that's a low probability client versus a prospect versus who you're going to remarket to, right? Versus the one who they're 15 seconds on the site, they scroll down past the fold, and you go, okay, this person's actually engaged. Maybe now is a good time to say, hey, thanks for visiting. If you have any questions, or give us your email, kind of thing. So,
we've seen that across. We've had some partnerships on the UGC front before, and whenever you have visual UGC, so imagery or TikTok galleries, whatever it might be today, the engagement, it's almost 10 times higher on the content that you show than branded content. It's the engagement is just there for it, and you don't need to have a transactional relationship. You can have an authentic, much more real relationship with your customer, and that's really where we want to play. We want to provide a true branded experience, and I think we do that with UGC, and I think it becomes much more authentic for customers.
Very, very cool. I think we'll sort of wrap it up there. Any final thoughts, words of wisdom? What comes next?
I want to congratulate you on winning the award, the NES award.
Oh, we didn't get to NES.
Agency of the year.
Do you have a few more minutes to talk NES real quick?
All right, let's do that.
So another recent development is you have Nosto has taken on, and you are chairman of the NES Ecommerce Summit. Can you tell us a bit about what that is? And absolutely, we were honored by the NES recently. But first, tell us about NES.
Well, first, look, I was on the jury, to be fair, but there were a lot of people on that jury. So even if I did vote in a certain direction, a lot of more people had to vote in your direction for you to get the award. So I couldn't, and I don't remember what I voted for anyway. So let's see. So here's the backstory. So in the Nordics, there's the equivalent of a shop talk in the Nordics. It's been around for almost 15 years. And when I joined Nosto in 2018, there was a rumor that the event in the Nordics was not going to happen for one of the other reasons. I took it upon myself to figure out why, because I've been in the Nordic e-commerce scene for many years. I figured that they're not going to run in 2018, and I was hugely disappointed. It's been the event there. Everyone goes. It's the NRF version or shop.org shop talk version of the Nordics. So I took it upon myself to figure out who owns this, who operates it, and then and negotiate with that. I found it. I found the person, and I said, "Look, can I take it over somehow?" And they're like, "Yeah, you can buy it from me." And I'm like,
if you're gonna shut it down, I'll keep it alive.
Yeah. So I said, "Look, it's not a for-profit thing that you do. It's been a loss-making thing forever." But I'm an e-commerce enthusiast. I've always been in this space. It's my entire background. It's what I know. It's what I love. It's why I wake up every morning. So I went back.
Wife and kids, your beautiful wife and kids.
Oh, they're not here. Okay, yeah. So I went back to the Nosto board, and I said, look, there's an event over here. It's been in the Nordics for a long time. It might not make us a lot of money, but I would really like it to live on. And would you mind, backing me if we acquire it? We need to put in a bit of money for it. And they said yes. We'll back you. We're going to run it as a separate entity from Nosto. It's going to live out there. If you need some Nosto people to help out, they can do that. That's fine. We just have to keep the finances in order. But yes, we'll do that. And then off we went. Little did I know we're going to hit COVID. So the year when I was going to start it up, and we had everything ready to go, and then we went straight into COVID lockdown. So we decided to morph the event. So we ran the event in the Nordics 1 year virtually, and we just hit this amazing response where we had the event in the physical world with 500 to 1,000 people. And we were far surpassed that only in the Nordics the first year we ran it, largely due to the content that we ran. And we got so excited, and we said, so why don't we invite the folks from the UK? Because a lot of people from the UK attended the Nordic one, and then we said, why don't we open up to EMEA with largely focusing on the UK, and why don't we focus on North America? And we set an ambitious goal, and why don't we get like 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 people join from North America, Europe, and then we started executing on that, and we had 4,000 people show up at the last event that we hosted in this was a month ago, and we had William Shatner, captain's.
You interviewed him.
And he's a Shopify and BigCommerce store runner. He knows how to run e-commerce, which is super interesting.
Is there nothing that man can't do?
Yeah, I mean he's 90 years old, and he's such a brilliant guy. He's into NFTs, and he's into all these very emerging stuff, CBD and NFTs. You imagine?
Yeah.
And then we had Johnny Wilkinson, the rugby player, and it's one of the most fascinating talks I've ever listened to about how to perform in the moment and not put all this stress on your shoulder. It's one of the most. I've rewatched it a couple of times because I think it's so good, especially if you're going in and you're pitching someone. Yeah. To perform better in the pitch, you listen to that for an hour and you go, you know what, now I can perform because I'm calm and I'm in the moment. Australia, we're missing Australia, so we're thinking next year we need to open it up for APAC and figure out the time zones. But we're if we were 4,000 this year, I wonder what the ambition is for next year.
I can certainly help you work out time zones because that's the life I've been living for the past year since we have APAC, Singapore, Europe, and West Coast.
I need your help.
We were thrilled and honored that you guys that we won the e-commerce agency of the year for I think North America. But yeah, super exciting and really excited for you guys that you've taken that on. It's especially in a COVID world. It's nice that there's still folks pushing to have these ecosystem events to help celebrate the clients that we're all working with, which is really what this is. It's about celebrating the clients. So super exciting. On our side, we actually just onboarded an office in Seattle this week. So we definitely want to get, thanks very much. It was a big commerce shop called Mercutio. It's now over.
I saw that in the news. Yeah, congratulations.
You guys know that. Thanks very much. We'll definitely want to get you guys in front of them to make sure that we are getting all the enablement that we can. But it's been an absolute pleasure. As always, it's been far too long since we chatted. Looking forward to the post-COVID where we can get back together again. When are you headed back to Brooklyn?
If travel allows, I'll probably go in the middle of the summer back. But if this doesn't change and it's as complicated as it was coming here, we're probably staying the summer. So let's see what they do with all the regulations. But we'll grab a beer or coffee whenever.
Absolutely. I'm back. And there are worse places to be than the west coast of Sweden in the summertime.
Yeah, there is.
Well, thanks very much for joining. Appreciate it, everyone. We're wrapping up the 47th now episode of Overdose and Chill with Jim Lofgren over at Nosto. So thanks very much, man, and we'll chat soon.
Thanks.